Pilipinas! Thinking about for today's video!
Ito, ang #1 podcast sa Pilipinas na ngayon pa lamang ilalabas.
Ang podcast na walang inaatrasan, walang inuurungan, tunay na serbisyo, dugsowa at kabaklaan lamang.
Dahil sa mga akla,
Angat at buhay ng lahat.
Shot puno!
uy, anong oras na?
OMG?
OMG?
OMG! Oh my Globalization with Jello, Marko, and Angelo.
At ayun na nga, welcome back sa ating podcast, mga meme. Episode 3 na tayo. Umabot tayo ng episode 3.
Alahin mo yun, parang lumampas tayo ng 2
Kaya Alec, eto na, nandito na tayo sa kalahati. Like, we're halfway through the whole podcast. Ayan.
Oo, sabi nga nila, making my way downtown.
At bilang hindi ko alam yun, nakikitawa na lang din ako.
Tama, oo. Ayun.
At ayan. Before muna tayong mag-proceed dun sa episode natin for today, of course, kailangan muna natin magpakilala. At ako na nga, ang cutie pie na dinadayo all the way from the land of samgipsalan, mga nagtatayuhang kapehan, at tunay kapampangan, ako, si Jello Serrano. At sino ka naman dyan, Mare?
At ako naman ang natatanging name, lead, at only vocal ng girl group na never nag-debut. Ako lang to, Bev, Marko, Saliman, at sino ka naman dyan, Bev?
Hey. Disclaimer, magkasama na kami. This is what dreams are made of. Ako nga ang kilalang sumisinghot ng Tajin dahil ako lamang nagmamayari ng bansang Tunisia, Malaysia, Philippines. Kilala bilang Mommah ng ABCom 2A. Ako si Angelo, hailing from the land of Lubao, Pampanga, all the way from Katipunan Avenue.
Tama po. Medyo off-shoulder tayo for the
Medyo umaalala siya, Mare. Sa taas mo yan. Kasi
For that,
hindi
at
tayo.
ang
G! Oh my Globalization with Marko, Jello, and Angelo.
Apo, ayan.
At ayan, welcome! Episode 3 na tayo, mga meme. So ayun nga,
kamusta naman economy from last week?
Oo.
grabe, napaka-bigat nung episode natin from last week. Diba? Parang, grabe, economic globalization. So, napaka-bigat nga ng topic.
Nakakatuwa.
Yeah. Oo. Actually, ang dami ko din na napulot na insights from you two. So parang, ayan, patunay na very informative yung podcast natin. And gusto ko naman, mapakinggan nyo naman kami. Utang na loob naman. Kailangan namin ng cloud.
Tama yan. And speaking of very informative, di na naman siya informative. Rain or shine, gagawa pa rin tayo ng podcast. Remember last week?
Tama.
Technical difficulties. Pero ngayon, I think, wala na because it's not raining, but it's raining.
Tama. Tsaka first time natin mag-shoot ng may araw pa.
Tama po. Yan ang patunay na
Congrats
nagtatrabaho tayo.
Parang kapamilya gold times na tayo.
Sambayan ng Pilipino, sambayan ng bakla, ahon, kipay.
Medyo, alam mo yun, babe. Pero ayun na nga. Go, Mamaro. Ano ba yung ganap natin for today?
Speaking of It's Raining Men, alam naman natin na It's Raining Men, it's a staple, it's a gay song for, it's been played to gay bars. Dahil ang ating episode for today ay Political The House Down Boots, Mommah.
Taray naman ang title.
The House Down Boots. Nanonood ba tayo ng, kayong dalawa, are you watching ang pinaka-prime ng pagiging bading? RuPaul's Drag Race.
Ayun, mga drag queen.
Oo, mga drag queen.
Yeah.
Ako, hindi ako super fan, pero like I've seen videos, I've seen episodes, pero hindi ako like super parang nanonood talaga religiously. Pero I love it. I love the culture. Ikaw ba?
Actually, same with Marko kasi hindi din ako like yung inaabangan ko siya like every season, ganun. Of course, as someone na belong or parang part of the community. May mga nag-ano din sa akin, like, uy, manood ka ng Drag Race kasi maganda nga daw, ganun. So, ang dami din nag-recommend sa akin na manood nga ng Drag Race. Pero, I understand the concept and the culture behind yung art of drag itself talaga, and it's actually very political, which is in relation to our topic for this episode, which is yung political globalization nga. Pero going back to my naman, hindi pa ako nakakanood ng super extensive na parang mga episodes ng Drag Race. Pero, nanonood ako ng post. Kung alam niyo yun, yung tawag dito kina Electra. Mother Electra. Oo, ayan. Actually, parang
House mother yan, tinatawag nila dyan.
Tama, the House of Evangelista, gano'n.
Tama.
Yung mga nag-vote.
Saka like, nag-start naman lahat yan in the ballroom scene.
Actually,
yeah.
Going back, if we're going back to the history of drag and drag queens, drag kings, kailangan natin sama drag kings because we have drag kings, we need to be inclusive. Na, we go way back through, makikita naman yan in the Criterion documentary, Paris is Burning, which is becoming more, a more staple in terms, not just in Pride Month, but in LGBT history in general.
Actually, ang fun thing is, fun fact is, di ba, ang history niyan is rooted in also Black culture.
Yeah.
Nag-start ang ballroom scene, eventually ang drag scene sa Black culture talaga, which is really, really nice. And we'll get to more of that later on.
So, bakit nga ba ganito ang ating episode? Sponsored by Obar and Nectar.
Tama! Uy, mamaya ganito tayo.
Sorry po.
Hindi tayo sponsored, pero baka naman sa mga brand dyan. Feel free to email us.
Drag and, this title. We all know that drag is very political. The art of drag is political. Even if you're just putting your own makeup, you're just performing stunting. It still has, political roots na meron. So now, we're going to talk about, political globalization. Ito naman talaga ang topic natin for today's video. So, in terms of political globalization, asan tayo? Letter sender. May letter sender ba tayo? I think wala. So,
walang nag-send dahil
so I think
bago
tayo mag-go in more with political globalization, can you please explain, Jello, what is the concept of political globalization?
Ayan na nga. So,
na naman,
ito na naman tayo sa mga patalinuhan ng mga term. Pero sige, mag-pretend tayo na matalino tayo. Okay, going back. So, ang political globalization nga is yung basically the study of global politics and yung interaction. Ito na naman yung word ng interaction dahil hindi talaga mawawala yung word ng interaction sa globalization dahil nga yung pinaka meaning talaga ng globalization is yung interdependentness ng mga countries. And it's also the yung interaction between states and yung mga non-state actors, including yung mga people, yung mga yung government, yung mga different international organization. And yun nga, sakop sila ng realms ng international relations and of course political globalization. Ayan. So sana nagkaroon ng idea ang ating mga listeners regards with the term na political globalization. Ayan.
Speaking of, having, like territories, state, peoples, governments, the elements of the state that is very, very important. Now, without it, there is no state. First, and without one of it, there is no state. And, napag-aaralan natin yan in Araling Panlipunan, Constitution, law and governance, na, we need to really see these elements para alam natin kung gumagana ba talaga siya in today's time. And I think ours already
medyo
So, well, ngayon, meron kasi tinatawag, di ba, in terms of political globalization, yung interstate relations, di ba?
Yeah.
So, I think, MX Marko, what is interstate relations?
Bale, yung mga interstate relations, usually these are the ones na, from how I understand it, na parang how different states get to relate their policies, get to relate how they govern their people, their own nations, and their own countries, and then adopt these policies to fit yung kani-kanilang respective states in their parang in their places. So like through interstate relations, nagkakaroon ng convergence. Yun na naman, di ba? Interconnectedness of like ideas, beliefs that could help shape their policies better in the future. Ganun ko siya na understand or nagigets. Ayun, tama. Meron naman tayong interconnectedness.
Yeah, I mean, well, going back to the roots of globalization, interconnectedness talaga. And I think the biggest hub, the biggest house na nag-interconnect sa atin would be the United Nations.
Tama.
United Nations, ito ang pinaka potent, parang skincare lang. Manifestation of the ascendancy of liberal internationalism. And in UN, meron siya iba-ibang sectors. You have the General Assembly, Security Council, Economic and Social Council, the International Court of Justice, Trusteeship Council, and the Secretariat. Ang hirap i-pronounce yung Secretariat. Parang Secretariat. Chinese L'Oreal. Speaking of, globalization.
Tama.
Actually, part ng globalization ng Chowky, product ng globalization. Napasok pa namin yung joke.
Tawid natin.
So speaking of, we've talked about political globalization, the key concepts of it, what it is. Like, we gave the people a gist. Ngayon, babalik na naman tayo with what we did on the second episode. Advocacy.
Ayan. May pa-advocacy.
May pa-advocacy tayo. Para lang Miss Q&A.
I believe ito ang aking advocacy.
I believe mahaba to. I believe 300 words to. And I believe advocacy to. And I thank you.
Tama ako.
Pero speaking of advocacy, diba, like, you see it in, international pageants talaga, Miss Universe, Miss World, and, it's still political. I mean, everything we do is political.
Tama.
Uminom ka man lang ng tubig, it's political.
Political.
Kumain
Maligaw ka, political.
Political.
Gusto ko yung nag-get sa ating lahat. Oo.
Hindi ko.
Hindi mo nag-get?
Pero moving forward, so we'll start with our advocacy. So let's start with Jello Serrano.
Siyempre ako na naman yung mauuna dahil yan yung fina-follow po namin sa script. Pero ayun na nga. Ate, hindi tayo mag-script reveal. Sabi nga natin nung second episode. Pero anyway, so let's move on na nga sa mga kanya-kanya naming mga advocacy for political globalization. And actually, yung concept ng political globalization, ang daming pwedeng advocacy na ipasok eh. As in like, sobrang complex, sobrang lawak ng sakop talaga ng, like political pala, yung politics pa lang, ang dami na. Like, for example, sa geopolitics, sa international relations, like, ang dami talaga. Kahit within the local context, ang dami natin pwedeng i-advocate for and to promote. And so, kagabi, actually hindi ako kagabi, basta nung isang araw, mga one day gano'n. Hulaan nyo na lang kung
anong day nga, anong week.
So, nag-isip ako ng magandang advocacy for political globalization. And isa nga sa mga naisip ko is gender equality. So, probably for, sa sa point na siguro na to, siguro aware naman po kayo na mga bayot po kami.
Di mo sure.
So, speaking of pagiging bayot and gender equality, ano ang inyong soji?
Comment niyo sa baba. Siyempre kung comfortable lang naman yung ating mga listeners.
Wala naman sa Philippines dito.
Oo, wala naman. Unless kung babayaran nyo kami. So, wala naman.
Going back ka sa iyong advocacy for
so yun nga. So naisip ko yung gender equality dahil part ako ng may, part kami ni MX Marko and MX Mamaru, Angelo Vasallo, na part ng LGBTQIA plus community, we have to, kailangan natin include yung plus dahil madaming super yung broad spectrum ng gender. Dahil parte ang community namin sa mga minorities. So, eto na nga ang aking advocacy. So, ang aking advocacy ay global movement for the promotion of equal rights for the minorities, especially women, and the LGBTQIA plus community. So, dito nakasaad na i-advocate yung mga rights or i-recognize yung rights ng mga minorities, especially women nga, as I've said, and yung LGBT as part of international laws. Kasi based sa aking research, wala akong nakitang laws na nagsispecify na parte, specifically, yung LGBTQ plus community sa laws na recognize nga nila na as basic human rights, yung rights natin as part nga ng community. As in like wala.
Rights to rights to
education, like yung basic human rights. As in like wala, which is very alarming. At this point na 2022, guys, sabi nga nila din, come on guys, it's 2022. So like, we call upon this international organization, like including, shout out po sa United Nations dahil nag-research din po ako sa mga provisions nyo at hindi nga included ang LGBTQIA plus community. Although included ang women and yung human rights for their yung mga SDGs, pero wala talaga ako nakita sa mga LGBT. Like, like, part na nga kami na minority. Oo, like, actually, it's very sad. Yun lang yung masasabi ko.
In history, di ba, we've long been part of history.
Yeah.
Why are we still not getting the rights we deserve? Di ba?
Tama. Like, it's been decades just to die. Since nung...
Ang daming undocumented stories. Centuries before...
Like, killings. Like, trigger warning po, pero this is the reality na nangyayari. Ito yung mga napagdadaanan po talaga namin. Like, discrimination. We all... Like, alam mo yon, kahit yung right to access to bathroom. Just to bathroom. Guys, restroom lang, hindi siya binibigay sa amin. And knowing na parang the worst case scenario is ang daming namamatay because of, their gender, their soji, like,
exactly.
Like for instance, lalo na yung mga trans sisters natin, yung mga trans trans brothers and sisters natin, na grabe, ang lala ng kasi hindi ko talaga siya kasi super frustrated din ako na knowing na parang at this point sana. Dapat kasi ang society nagpo-progress siya na forward, pero parang baliktad yung nangyayari eh. Pero although, of course, we have to recognize na mahaba pa din yung step na iti-take pa natin, like kami as part of the Gen Zs. Ngayon, medyo may acceptance na. Medyo, konti. Oo, pero we demand pa rin.
More.
Hindi pa din
it's not actually demanding more, it's demanding the bare minimum.
Yeah, actually.
The bare minimum. It's not demanding more than what you then. It's actually setting the ground that we deserve this because this is the bare minimum.
Yeah, it's basically pinaka na to, like kung sa ice cream, eto ni vanilla flavor. Diba? Yun na yun! Uy, hindi mo basic. Sorry po sa mga... Uy, fan po ako ng vanilla. Oo, diba? Uy, fan din ako ng vanilla, Mimi. Ano ba? Pero kasi kapag you mix with yung vanilla with other flavors, like magiging cookies and cream, like strawberries and cream. Yeah, it's the very foundation. So, ang ganda din ng metaphor ko. Uy, grabe, naisip ko.
Grabe, gano'n naman talino.
Diba? Like vanilla ice cream.
Tama. Maganda metaphor yung vanilla ice cream. 3 in 1 plus 1, happy
Happy
ka.
Select, tama ka naman po. Pero Pero ayun nga, going back to my with all jokes aside, we demand the government, not only the government but the whole society to recognize our rights as something urgent and something vital and important for all of us as a society, as a whole society. Dahil ang pangit kasi na parang meron pa din discrimination towards gender. Kasi naiinis talaga ako. Like, personally, as someone who's been through a lot, na parang, ang hirap din kasi na parang part ka din na minority. Kasi a lot of people think na parang it's a choice. Na parang, okay, being homosexual is a choice. Girl, to tell you, it's not a choice. Kasi kung choice siya,
Kailangan straight.
magiging straight na lang kami kasi mas madali yun, di ba?
Mas convenient siya.
Di ba? Like, hello, di ba? Am I right?
Here's out.
Period. Di ba? So like, guys, hindi siya but we have to live with it. Dahil ito yung truth namin. This is who we are. And there's nothing wrong with that. Na gender, like human rights shouldn't be based according to gender, like whether you're a woman or sa age mo, kung bata ka man, kung minor ka man, like wala. As it like race, Asian, Black, Latina, wala. Dapat ang human rights is universally seen as equal. Kahit sa international scene, as a global world, as a global village, sabi nga ni Marko sa mga previous episode. Kasi we live in one global village wherein akala natin hindi nakaka-affect yung mga actions natin. Well, in fact, that's wrong actually.
Yeah.
One way or another, nakaka-affect talaga siya. And ayun, to reiterate, ang aking aking political globalization advocacy rather, is to promote the equal rights for the minorities, especially women and the LGBTQIA. Dahil importante nga to, as sabi nga to quote lang din, si UN Secretary General Mr. Antonio Guterres, ang sabi niya, achieving gender equality and empowering women and the girls and the LGBTQIA is the unfinished business of our time and the greatest human rights challenge in our world, which is, I totally agree with him to his statement dahil very, kailangan na talaga siyang mapasabatas and mapagtuunan ng pansin. Ayun. So, ayun lang naman ang aking advocacy for political globalization. At tumungo naman tayo sa inyong dalawa. Pero, ayan, mauna muna si Mama Ru. Ayan, Mama Ru.
Pero before I start, I would like to note dun sa advocacy mo na we also should not forget all the victims that were lost due to hate crimes. Specifically in our country, Ms. Jennifer Lauden. Sa ibang bansa, nabalitaan nyo ba yung gay bar sa US na na-raid and it's really, that was dun siya Pride Month eh.
Yeah, Pride Month. Tapos,
last year?
Matagal, pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic. Oh my gosh.
Hindi ako sure kung sa Houston, Texas siya. Pero basta may nangyaring hate crime and then it's a gay bar na
a lot of people were
injured.
Casualties talaga. Like, I don't know if there were people killed, pero there were casualties, like injured people, some severely injured. Yeah.
May segment nga sa Drag Race. I'm not sure what season, pero isang drag queen dapat daw magpe-perform sa bar na yon, and buti na lang daw hindi, kung hindi he or she will die.
Yeah. Grabe ang sahol.
And also hindi rin natin pwedeng iwasan tignan ang, rainbow capitalism and, all the things that, society says that they support the community pero hindi naman talaga. They just exploit it for the benefit of them.
Actually.
Hello, BL. Hi, BLs.
Ay, ano
I mean, that's true. I mean, that's an issue of the BL community, diba? Na
true.
It's actually
True, no?
exploitation. It's not,
Well, for me, it's like more of like, queer baiting. Kasi walang actual representation of
True.
actors.
Exactly.
Diba? Na parang medyo queerbaitish type siya.
Yeah.
That's why it never sold to me as like something really, my God!
Oh my God! Okay na kami, guys.
Oh, totoo.
Like, represent
And you know, BLs, I don't know if it's true, pero on my own personal view, it promotes the what I don't like, what is coming to the mass culture. Stereotyping, femme-shaming. It's bad. So, going back sa advocacy ko, bilang resident, you know, I can't be blunt. I'm in a Catholic university.
Like, okay lang naman.
As someone who likes intimacy, as someone, you know,
Yeah.
who always seeks for
Body
positivity for love.
Yeah.
Nagsa-search ako in terms of the you know, the world of the internet about sex education. And I've seen...
Okay, wait lang. Before tayo mag-proceed dyan, mag-erato muna. Wala naman po kaming, like, mali siya na pinuput, But we, as much as possible, we try to also educate our listeners. Dahil, alam mo yun, of course, we are in a Catholic university and parang as a society, parang medyo tabu pa din yung usapan towards sex. Oo, sex and ganyan. Pero in this episode, hindi yun mangyayari.
And it's really important to talk about kasi if you talk about it, ano mangyayari sa bansa? Oh, well.
Yeah.
Diba, like, before I start with my book kasi, diba, like, you know, sa families, hindi talaga siya pinag-uusapan.
Yeah.
Ako, personally, I did not ask my parents about it kasi nakakahiya. Like, you had this as a kid na nakakahiyang...
Asking about
it.
Wala parang, why would you even ask your parents about it?
Tapos if you're gonna ask your parents, they're going to dismiss it naman. So, wala ka rin makukuha. So, you'll go to porn. You'll go to sites na, you know, are not safe for work.
Yeah, harmful.
Oo, na you would go into this, you know, realm of fantasy kasi porn is fantasy. It's not real. It's made to cater for an audience para, you know, to sell.
Exploit.
Yeah, to exploit. So, going back, there are 3 countries sa Google na nag-search ako na walang sex education. Bangladesh, Myanmar, Pakistan. Considering pati tayo, wala tayong sex education. And you know, a country needs to have sex education first and foremost. Kasi sex education doesn't talk about just sex. It's about family planning, STDs, Planned Parenthood. Lahat ng kailangan mong gawin to be, you know, to be prepared. Yeah. And especially in our growing population na, you know, hindi mo na alam kung gusto mo. Ako, personally, ayoko na magkaanak because of how
ako din.
Dami natin. Like, ayoko na dumagdag. Ayoko na
Ang dami na po tao, like 7 billion. Like,
Tapos there's also yung ang daming bata in adoption agencies na, you know, some are orphanages na some are being just because we don't have good sex education here.
Yeah.
Teenage pregnancy, that would also be a big factor na teenage pregnancy is very rampant here. Kahit hindi naman siya masyadong nababalita, pero it's still a big issue to consider na, you know, sex education can lessen the rate of teenage pregnancy. So, ang aking advocacy would be sex education to be pushed to all countries regardless of religion, belief, etc. Kasi, you know, it's important, redundant ako na redundant, pero kailangan talaga ng sex ed kasi the youth would be, you know, not just the youth, but a lot of people would benefit from it, would know how to really plan well with accordance with their kung ano yung classes nila, kung gaano sila nakalaki kumikita, demography, and everything. In terms of, you know, so, yun nga. So, going back to additional with the advocacy is, meron ako nabasa somewhere na sex ed would actually help the help and protect the right to education. Kasi, a lot of girls drop out of school because of teenage pregnancy.
Yeah.
And if nagkaroon tayo ng sex ed here, magkakaroon ng less decisions na hindi maganda when it
The
comes to sex.
dropout rate.
The dropout rate would decrease because they know what to do. They know
Yeah.
contraceptives kasi pag-uusapan yung contraceptives.
They wouldn't have to leave school. Kumbaga.
Tapos, if I'm not mistaken, pinag-uusapan din ang gender roles and gender inequality in terms of sex education. So, it's important.
Yeah.
And there's actually a study na because of sex education, dahil nga nandun ang gender roles, the youth would actually perform less risky sex behavior, so unprotected sex,
Yeah.
less sex activities, and yun nga, less teenage pregnancy rates. Like, it would benefit a lot of factors talaga. It's not just for the well-being of our own bodies, but rather for a lot of factors within the political scope. Kasi, tingnan mo ang developed countries, like, sila talaga nakaka-receive ng quality sex education. Developing countries, not a lot. And underdeveloped countries, hindi ko na alam.
And libre. Libre yung nila. Oo.
And, I think also with sex, if nagkaroon ng sex education, hindi mahihiya ang tao, especially in the community, going back with what you said, na magpa-test.
Yeah.
Nagiging tabu ang HIV testing kasi it's pretty important. Dahil hindi lang naman ng LGBT community ang nakakuha ng HIV.
Oo, to correct that parang notion kasi yun na, 'di ba? Like guys,
Yeah, actually, nung nagkaroon nga tayo ng UU webinar, 'di ba? Na-discuss na parang throughout recent years, nakita nila na mas nag-increase na daw ang number of infected people with infected people with HIV sa mga heterosexual relationships than homosexual relationships, which is really alarming kasi it means na hindi talaga parang
The stigma.
the stigma isn't real, kumbaga parang
It's just that siguro before there were a lot of undocumented, cases, and a lot don't really test. It's a really taboo thing. Yeah,
heavily stigmatized.
Diba, like, ako kasi, like, before I learned, kasi, before I became this awake, syempre, I was
nag-bloom.
Before ako nag-bloom, like, syempre ako bilang, magiging blank na tayo dahil this is for the episode. Bilang sexually active before, yung concept na pag pumasok ka ng HIV center tapos maglalabas ka, yung kaba, yung titignan ka ng mga tao. Especially first time na nagpa-test, it's not because, sinasabi ko to dahil it's not because na gusto namin, hindi na ako nahiyang sabihin to kasi very important ang testing.
Actually.
No matter what, important ang testing. And
Actually, regardless if you're sexually active or not, that's really important. Kasi for example, like if you're not sexually active but your partner from like their past relationship
have the virus,
active siya, you
can also be infected with it.
True. Tsaka hindi naman HIV ang tinignan dito. It's STDs.
Syphilis.
Exactly. You can get STDs by just kissing.
Yeah. Even like parang yung mga yung gonorrhea.
Na sex ed help a lot. Really benefit
It really help alleviate a lot of like problems concerning
And it would actually, help us really prepare if magkakaroon ng activity. Kunyari, douching. For sure, pag-usapan ng douching. Paano paglalagay ng tamang condom.
Hindi sa podcast na ito, pero
pero ang kasi like with the thing with sex education and like ito, to be fair, like ang pinaka-contra kasi dyan yung mga religious institutions, diba? And to be fair, it's not that we restrict the idea of their beliefs. It's that hindi lang naman kasi yun yung religions na available. Like there are people who do not practice any certain religion and would like to partake in education regarding sex. Kasi importante talaga siya.
Sabi nga sa ethics class natin, ang limit ng divine commandment theory is that one religion would be supreme over the other. And we cannot be that because Christianity isn't just a religion of the world.
Yeah. Tama.
May mga religious, may mga atheists, we have,
agnostic,
practice and divination. No, we cannot, just because Christianity is a large population does not mean na
it's the only.
Yun na yun. It's the only religion that is existing.
So this is not discrediting.
Yeah.
Course, but like We have to acknowledge the
Hindi
presence.
po kami nang babarda.
We just have to acknowledge the existence of others.
Kasi, sabi nga rin naman sa Christianity that we accept and we welcome our brothers and
Yeah,
sisters.
to make way for like policies and advocacies
Yun
like
nga,
this.
yeah.
Which is yung sex education for like policies and like as a curriculum in educational institutions.
Yeah,
All
actually.
parties.
Tsaka like, hindi lang naman, sex ed ang na-inhibit dyan. So, like, there's a lot of, policies na kailangan talaga natin na limit because not saying that sa churches natin. But it's just a form of constructive criticism na
Of course.
Yeah.
kailangan talaga natin because we also want to develop.
Yeah, of course.
We want to move
Progress.
on and go forward and be one as a nation na, even though it's impossible to see that rainbows and sunshines, but a girl can dream.
A girl can dream, right?
And I think you have hope for people.
Yeah.
You hope every day na a lot of people are good, helpful. And nakikita naman natin during calamities talaga na even through social media na people really help. Even though that social media is a little amount than physical, pero it still is a lot to say.
Yeah.
Sabi nga nila, sama sa kukuha ng lakas ng loob. Ayun, tama.
Agree.
Kaya, again, not just that na kailangan natin mag-demand for that, but also we need to vote for leaders that are in line
With these
With
things.
With this up.
kasi even though that we clamor for it and a specific leader is not open-minded for it,
Tama.
nangyayari.
It's just that there's the progress.
So it's not just, it's not just having sex education in the country, but also choosing the right leaders who are in for with this.
Yeah.
Kasi hindi naman talaga siya
Yung-
masamang idea.
Mhm.
It's not, hindi siya malibog na idea. It's a benefit.
It's not dirty.
It's not dirty.
Mhm.
Hindi siya dirty ice cream. Select ka.
Tama.
Uy, dirty ice cream ka, masarap third. Grabe naman to.
Well, sa lahat naman ng dirty.
Ako siya, kalbo siya.
I mean,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay na po yun.
I'm done. Again, reiterating lang na for my advocacy, pushing sex education to developing countries. Ayan. Okay, next tayo and for the final competition. Final
Last candidate.
Miss
Jujubi na! Sasaburo ka talaga.
Ano, Jujubi? Di ba? Jujubinay?
Sino naman,
Okay.
Ayun, so 'di ba, dahil na-mention yun na yung mga advocacies niya, si Mama Ruth, tsaka si Miss Jello. Yung sa akin, actually, yung advocacy ko, super tugmang-tugma siya sa advocacies nyo. Kasi sa akin, yung pinaka-political globalization advocacy ko is to raise, or parang, paano ba yung pinaka-term niya? To raise awareness on intersectionality. Yun yung idea ng advocacy ko. Kasi, believe it or not, all of these social issues, all of these cultural, social, economic, and political issues, all of this are interconnected and intersectional.
Yeah.
For example, I'll give you an instance. Yung advocacy ni Jello on gender equality, it's intersectional with the advocacy of sex education kasi it matters.
Tama.
Diba? Connected talaga sila. And a lot of cultural, social, political, economic issues are rooted in intersectionality. And we have to understand that all of these issues are interconnected talaga, as in feminism. We don't want to just advocate for feminism that is liberal. We don't want to advocate for feminism that is centered on body positivity lang, or women empowerment, my body, my choice. We have to understand the context behind why we fight for women's rights, diba? Na women's rights, first and foremost, are also a product of class struggle.
Yeah.
Which
Tama.
is economic in nature. It is political in nature. So it's very intersectional. The fight for LGBTQ rights is also intersectional. Gaya nga na nasabi ko kanina, di ba? Yung pinagsimulan ng ballroom scene, pinagsimulan ng drag scene, are rooted from Black culture. That is racial. It's a racial issue or culture, parang ganon. So like, all of these things, we have to be mindful of always parang criticizing or like being critical on the intersectionality of it all. Hindi pwedeng paglalaban lang natin ang isang bagay ng ganun lang. So yun lang yung paglalaban natin. For example, with regards to it's a really controversial issue, pero yung sex work. For a lot of people, promotes women empowerment. I understand that. Pero at the same time, is it really women empowerment if we do not consider yung class divide? Na a lot of these women who engage in sex work or prostitution are almost always the people who are in the lower income households.
Tama.
Sila yung nagbabalat kayo, sila yung kailangan mag-sacrifice ng education nila, ng buhay nila, just to make ends meet, just to feed their family. It's an economic issue. Alam mo yun, na parang if we promote sex work in the purpose of promoting women empowerment, do we really empower women in the first place? Diba? If we don't consider the class, the hierarchy, the patriarchal system of society, then it defeats the purpose of trying to empower women through promoting the usage of sex work.
Tama.
Diba? Na parang ang sinasabi nila, legalize sex work kasi it empowers women. Pero when you legalize sex work, it legalizes the very system and institution.
Kung bakit,
Yeah, it legalizes these institutions to legalize penalties for these women who engage in sex work. Yung mga ganon. So like, a better alternative would be to decriminalize sex work, to not make it illegal. Yeah. Diba? Instead of like legalizing it. Kasi when you legalize it, edi i-legalize mo yung taxes nila. Gagawin mo talaga siyang legitimate work na magiging capitalistic na naman in a sense. Kasi we live in a very capitalistic society. So like, this is a very, it's a very broad topic, but it's a very intersectional one.
I get exploitative.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So like,
very... For diba, like human trafficking, ganyan.
Pero speaking of, sex workers na are mostly in the lower class talaga. Even though, talaga makikita mo siya in terms of films, talagang, di ba, usually ang characters na nag-enter for sex work are those.
Yung mga game na parang may hirap.
Like, for example, like, una tayo lumayo, Mamwe na Mother 2.
Exactly. Which was, by the way, directed by Rod Singh. Angeles,
Walking Street.
Walking Street, ang very infamous Walking Street.
Diba, like, you will see talaga na, it's not just, this one issue, it's a lot of issues.
And you have to understand.
Meron pang deep.
Exactly. Rooted talaga siya in so many issues na kailangan.
Ang daming layer.
Pinaglaban natin siya, lahat yun ipaglalaban natin. Hindi siya pwedeng paglalaban ko yung karapatan ng sangkabaklaan pero hindi ko i-consider yung sangkabaklaan na may hirap. Diba?
Tama,
May mga ganun may mga alta gays.
May mga nasa Twitter.
May mga ganung bading na parang paglalaban nila, yes, LGBTQ empowerment, pero restrictive. Yung ganun, hindi pwede yun. Kapag, sabi nga ni Marsha P. Johnson, liberation for none until the liberation for all. Parang something to that effect. Cannot be liberated. No one is liberated unless everyone is liberated. Diba? And that is the very root of LGBTQ struggle. Yung mga ganun, it's a very political thing. And at the same time, it's an economic, a social, a cultural thing. It's very intersectional. We have to take that always into consideration whenever we want to advocate for things we want to fight for. Yun yung parang pinaka-advocacy ko talaga. That we have to really take into consideration that everything intersects. Ayun ang aking advocacy. Parang galit ako dun
Pero like, totoo naman, parang na siyang globalization.
Galit tayo, be.
Ganun talaga, very talaga, interconnected talaga.
Kaya di ba meron tayong intersectional feminism, intersectional...
Kala ko sasabihin niya intersections ng San Fernando.
Dalawa tayo. Ito na naman tayo sa joke natin. Hindi talaga.
Okay.
Yun nga, parang isa sa mga parang pinaka-ina-advocate is that intersectional feminism. Parang we have to understand na there are women of color. So racial siya. There are poor women. So it's a class thing. Tapos merong non-binary women, merong trans women.
Kasama ba dyan ka women?
Yeah! Handicapped women. That's disability, yung sa mga persons with disabilities. Tapos yung trans women natin sa community, that's an LGBTQ thing. So you see, these are all women, pero at the same time, it goes across
They're different.
Exactly. A really wide spectrum. So it's intersectional. Pero isa lang naman gusto natin paglaban, karapatan ng kababaihan. Di ba? Ganon.
So kailangan lahat. Hindi lang...
All-encompassing.
Kailangan, hindi tayo pwede mag-cherry.
Tama. No cherry picking.
So,
Tama ka na, Miss Cherry Pie Pikachu.
And in fairness, gusto ko yung advocacies natin. It's very nice.
Actually,
In fairness, sa these 3 episodes, umaangkar na tayo pataas.
Parang airplane talaga.
sabi ko nga nung first EP, para tayo roller coaster, be. Gumaga.
Pero hindi ko alam ano mangyayari sa ating abangan ng ating next episode. So,
may pasabog daw tayo.
Dahil may mga literal dynamite pasabog kami dyan. Boom! Not dynamite fishing, but dynamite the song.
Tama. Hindi tayo pwede kantahin, hindi ka makapagawa.
Akala ko yung candy.
Okay, so we're just gonna reiterate. So, nabanggit na natin ang ating mga advocacies. So, advocacies ni Jello would be...
promotion of gender equality, especially the minorities like women and LGBTQIA rights, recognizing their rights as basic human rights in international laws. Ayun.
Okay, advocacy would be, pushing sex education towards developing countries. And lastly, kay MX Marcos,
acknowledgement and consideration of all these social issues as part of intersectionality.
Tama.
So,
at ayan, dito tayo nagtatapos sa ating episode. Baka meron tayong gustong dyan, Maring Jello.
Ayan. O nga pala, dyan na tayo magtatapos for this episode 3 na Political Globalization. And of course, if you like this podcast, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And if may mga gusto kayong i-share or i-keme about sa mga advocacies namin, ano ba yung mga sasabi nyo sa mga kanya-kanya namin mga advocacy? Agree ba kayo or disagree? Kapag disagree, manahimik na lang po kayo.
Sasabihin yan!
Huwag yung mo sasabihin dahil
gagawin na.
Oo. At i-comment nyo yan sa ibaba para naman malalaman namin ang tindig ng masang kabaklaan.
Tama! On that note, ngayong nalalapit na halalan 2022, huwag kalilimutang maging mabusisi sa mga kandidato, paglaban ng karapatang pantao, at huwag kalilimutang bumoto.
Shabay!
I love you, Paul!
Ayan,
At sino ka naman dyan, Mare?
At ako naman, ang cutie pie na dinadayo all the way from the land of Samgipsalan, mga nagtatayuhang kapehan at tuling kapampangan. Ako, si Jello Serrano. At sino ka naman dyan, Mare?
Ayan, ako nga pala ang natatanging main, lead, at only vocal ng girl group na never nag-debut. Ako lang to, Marko Suliman. At sino ka naman dyan, be?
Ako nga ang kilalang sumisinghot ng Tajin dahil ako lang ang may nagmamay-ari ng bansang Tunisia, Malaysia, Philippines. Alam kilang mamaru ng Ibicom 2A. Ako si Angelo hailing from the land of Lubao, Pampanga. Hoy! Anong oras na? Tapos na! At ito ang
O,
M
G. Oh my globalization with Marko, Jello, and Angelo. Ayun, bye guys!
Bye. I love you, Sevi.
I love you, Paul.
Ano po? Papid!
Tapid.
Chabi-chambe.